Reporting tonight, Anne Waodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, regional summit holds in Nigeria. Agencies condemn rising financial crimes as Nigeria's Attorney General Lateef Fagbemi pushes for forfeiture of assets of corrupt officials. House of Representatives continue its probe of Presidential Foreign Intervention Council. Invited government agencies failed to show up, slowing down proceedings. Senate expands the mandate of its ad hoc committee investigating the implementation of Safe Schools program to include the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. The U.S. military says it launched another round of strikes against Iran to further degrade its capabilities to attack ships on the Strait of Hormuz. And on sports tonight, 23 players now in camp of the Super Falcons in Casablanca with 4 days to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco.
And on business news, the central bank reaffirms commitment to a stronger banking system as Governor Cardoso links the recapitalization drive and microfinance bank delisting to financial stability. And from the nation's capital, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, defends federal government's economic reforms and the banking recapitalization exercise, says both programs are strengthening Nigeria's financial safety net.
We begin tonight with a call by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, on anti-corruption institutions across West Africa to break what he describes as the silence of financial crime, saying the region's rapidly evolving criminal landscape demands stronger collaboration, innovation, and decisive enforcement to tackle transnational corruption. And according to him, corruption cannot be discussed as a criminal justice matter alone, adding that West African nations must strive to build societies where corruption becomes harder to perpetrate and accountability stronger than impunity. He made the call at the maiden edition of the Leadership Conference of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa. Our correspondent, Victoria Longjon, reports.
Please be seated.
With rising cross-border financial crimes, heads of anti-corruption institutions from across West Africa converge on Abuja for the maiden edition of the Leadership Conference of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa. The conference, themed Transformational Leadership for Effective Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, seeks to strengthen collaboration and enhance institutional capacity in combating corruption across the sub-region.
Corruption environment has changed significantly. Criminal networks increasingly operate across borders. Illicit financial flows move through multiple jurisdictions within seconds. Digital platforms and emerging technologies create new opportunities for development, but they also produce new forms of fraud, concealment, manipulation, and financial crimes. Artificial intelligence is transforming the way information is generated, analyzed, and deployed.
Delivering the keynote address, the Attorney General of the Federation called for innovative strategies to confront increasingly sophisticated criminal networks. He also referenced a recent Supreme Court judgment on the forfeiture of assets linked to a former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, maintaining that assets reasonably established as proceeds of crime should be forfeited in accordance with the law.
Public office is not a license for personal enrichment. It is a sacred trust. Those entrusted with public resources must always be prepared to account for how those resources are managed. Only a few days ago, gentlemen, the Supreme Court of Nigeria reaffirmed the effectiveness of our civil asset forfeiture regime. That judgment stands as a powerful affirmation that the rule of law remains the bedrock of our anti-corruption architecture and that our institutions are capable of delivering justice without fear or favor.
Meanwhile, participants at the conference say the platform offers an opportunity to exchange best practices and strengthening professional networks that can be replicated in their respective countries.
A learning and sharing of experiences. So we can bring ours, which includes what we do with naming and shaming, asset recovery, borderless investigation, and things that can help improve the fight against corruption in West Africa.
With the conference, all of us can vote together so that if there's a case that we are handling, it is a cross-border crime, we can quickly contact our neighbors or the other institutions, or state institutions, then you can fight it.
As West African nations grapple with increasingly complex financial crimes, it is expected that this leadership conference will strengthen regional partnerships capable of safeguarding the region's future. From Abuja, Victoria Longjohn, Channels Television News.
And to the Green Chamber now, where lawmakers are calling for a comprehensive investigation into the losses, casualties and properties abandoned by Nigerians following the recent wave of xenophobic attacks in South Africa. They're also urging the federal government to pursue stronger diplomatic engagements, legal measures and bilateral cooperation to ensure the safety of Nigerians living in the country. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
It is the first plenary session of the week in the House of Representatives, with proceedings presided over by the Speaker as the Green Chamber resumes full legislative business. Topping the day's proceeding is a motion by the member representing Ikorodu Federal Constituency of Lagos State, Mr. Babajimi Benson, seeking a comprehensive legislative investigation into the losses, damages and casualties suffered by Nigerians during the recent xenophobic attacks in South Africa.
The House recognizes that a comprehensive legislative inquiry has become imperative, not merely to establish responsibility for the recent attacks, but also to document the cumulative human, economic, and social consequences of xenophobic violence against Nigerians in South Africa, with a view to recommending enduring legislative, diplomatic, and institutional solutions for the protection and reparation systems for Nigerians in diaspora.
The motion seeks to mandate the House Committees on Diaspora and Foreign Affairs to document the human and economic losses, take inventory of abandoned properties, and recommend diplomatic and legal measures to improve the protection of Nigerians living in South Africa.
Crime.
Lawmakers also considered a motion calling for a comprehensive audit of all seized, forfeited, and recovered assets since May 29, 1999.
There is presently no centralized or publicly accessible national asset recovery and management register capable of providing comprehensive information on status, value, location, management, disposal, utilization and proceeds of recovered assets across the Federation.
The proposal advocates a national digital registry of recovered assets and the creation of an ad hoc committee to strengthen transparency, accountability, and legislative oversight in asset management. Meanwhile, shortly after plenary, the House ad hoc committee investigating the controversial Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council expressed displeasure over the failure of some heads of ministries, departments, and agencies to honor its summons.
The committee hereby issued.
The committee also faulted the absence of the Minister of Finance, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who is represented by an official of the ministry.
Wish to express profound disappointment over the failure of some ministries, departments, and agencies of government of the federal government of Nigeria to honor its invitation and appear before this committee today. The committee will not hesitate to recommend and pursue every sanction permitted by law against any person or institution that deliberately obstruct or frustrate this investigation.
The panel further summoned the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Security Advisor to explain how the council allegedly operated despite concerns over its legitimacy. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Senate has expanded the mandate of its ad hoc committee investigating the implementation of the Safe Schools Initiative program to include TED Fund, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, the Universal Basic Education Commission, the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, and the National Social Investment Program Agency. The upper chamber also granted the committee a 3-week extension to conclude its investigation. The resolution followed the motion sponsored by Chairman of Ad Hoc Committee, Senator Orji Kalu, pursuant to Orders 41 and 51 of the Senate Standing Orders 2026, seeking an expansion to the committee's terms of reference and additional time to complete its assignment.
It's our safe school. We're supposed to submit our reports, and there are few more areas that we have not gone. So I needed the permission of the Senate to mention it so that we can conclude in the next 2-3 weeks and come back with the report. And party nominations affected us, so it made it very impossible to go to some places we're supposed to go.
Is it the view of the Senate that he be allowed to have the 3 weeks extension? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So.
Meanwhile, the Senate has passed a bill to repeal and reenact the law establishing the National Insurance Commission, paving the way for the regulatory agencies to be renamed the Insurance Regulatory Commission. The legislation, titled the Insurance Regulatory Commission Establishment Bill 2026, was passed after the Senate considered and adopted the report of its Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions during plenary today.
Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, to which this bill has been referred, having favorably considered same, which reflect the majority of the memoranda and submissions received from stakeholders and the general public during the public hearing, and are in the attached report, and recommends as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the Insurance Regulatory Commission Establishment Bill 2025 SB 394.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this bill be now read a third time. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
We turn our attention to the economy now. The Central Bank's July Monetary Policy Committee meeting has once again put Nigeria's economic outlook in sharp focus, from interest rates and inflation to borrowing costs, mortgages, and investor confidence. The committee's decisions carry far-reaching implications for businesses and households alike. In this next report, it highlights the latest decision and the impact on the economy and the market.
Very serious one.
Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee is once again taking center stage, with markets, businesses and households closely watching the central bank's latest policy direction. As expected, there was another hold. Since the last meeting in May, inflation rate has moderated to 15.91% in June, with the naira remaining largely stable.
The committee's decision to maintain the current policy stance followed a thorough assessment of the balance of risks. Although the headline inflation moderated marginally in June 2026, global uncertainties have heightened due mainly to the renewed hostilities in the Middle East.
Conversation then turned to expert analysis, with leading economists and market practitioners breaking down the policy implications and what lies ahead for the Nigerian economy.
The Central Bank Governor had mentioned that in the coming period, Nigeria should expect more improvement. He mentioned that he expects inflation expectation to reduce. We are not expecting higher inflation, except and unless situations that are what we call externalities that are outside our control. We understand that global oil price, which of course have implication on energy, is completely outside the control of our nation. We also understand that excessive imports, even though we can manage it to some extent, but it may go to an extent where we may not be able to control.
Before the next meeting, pay attention to inflation. I would actually pay attention more to core inflation, and I'll pay attention to food inflation. As the governor mentioned, we're expecting the food prices to come down as we're getting into harvest season. So we expect that would trend down a little bit and then largely affect headline inflation that will also trend down. Pay attention to market liquidity. What exactly is the plan for the central bank to address that liquidity? I know there was a CRR debit about on Friday, last week Friday, as opposed to doing an home auction, there was a CRR debit, so we might need to pay attention to that. Are we expecting more debits in the future when we have home maturities? That was going to happen.
As the economy continues to navigate inflation, exchange rate dynamics, and issues around the Strait of Hormuz impacting energy markets, the Monetary Policy Committee's decision remains one of the most significant drivers of financial markets and business activity. Laddie Williams, reporting for Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, we will be joined by the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewani, to analyze the monetary policy decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Regional summit holds in Nigeria. Agencies condemn rising financial crimes as Nigeria's Attorney General Lateef Fagbemi pushes for forfeiture of assets of corrupt officials. House of Representatives continue its probe on Presidential Foreign Intervention Council. Invited government agencies failed to show up, slowing down proceedings. The Senate expands the mandate of its ad hoc committee investigating the implementation of the Safe Schools program to include the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. The U.S. military says it launched another round of strikes against Iran to further degrade its capabilities to attack ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And let's continue now with a discussion of the decision of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, which was made today. We have the CEO of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewani. Thank you very much, Mr. Rewani, for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, many have said that this decision to retain rates carry far-reaching implications for businesses, for households, for the ordinary man on the street, especially when we remember that there's still a global crisis in the oil industry. Give us some insight into the reason why this was retained and, of course, its implication on the economy of Nigeria.
Okay, thank you once again. Let's start from the point of view that the Nigerian Central Bank just won an award of the best central bank in the world in London about a week ago. And that's no mean feat because it's a recognition of its autonomy, its independence, and its foresight. So that aside, we are saying the central bank holds, that's the governor here, why this and why now? And what are the implications of this? First and foremost, there were 5 considerations here. One, external, which oil prices fluctuating and unstable. It has gone all the way from $68 to $125 and is swinging all over the place. And the volatility is higher than normal. Between February 28th this year and today, July 21st, we've seen these swings. Now, core inflation is also supports a hold. Core inflation is stable, and food inflation has increased. So that means that inflationary factors are transient. Like here, US-Iran shock, the drivers are largely transitory, and the Naira is strong, the reserves are high, and the official market is 1380, and the parallel market is 1420. But inflation expectations are elevated. We expect that in the month of July, we'll see inflation, which are slightly moderated to go back up marginally again. I think that's very important to note. So that is why we say why this and why now. Now, the central bank governor also and the Monetary Policy Committee actually decided to change what we call the oil cost. An oil cost is when you lose your money or the money leaks and you don't actually take advantage of it into an oil purse. In other words, saving the money rather than wasting the money. So you can see Brent is above $85 a barrel. As a matter of fact, today it's about $92 a barrel. Yet inflation expectations stay elevated. The MPC decision hinges on which force wins. And you can see that's the price, that's the barrel of oil.
Yeah.
Oil production is increasing and oil theft is actually declining. If you go to the next slide, you'll see what I'm talking about. So 4 things that will drive the Nigerian economy in the next 2 months. 1, the price of crude oil, which is outside our control.
Yeah.
And like I said, it has gone all the way from 68 to 92. Right now, we think the market has priced in the instability and it will average at about $85 a barrel. The other thing is the price of PMS. Every time you raise the price of PMS, it feeds into transport costs and feeds into logistics costs. That's very, very important. And that is under the control, basically, of the Dangote refinery and the other refiners. The other one is the value of the naira, which, again, lies in the way the central bank has managed this currency. You will see as we go to the next slide that the IMF says the naira is 25% undervalued. We think it's about 14% undervalued. But the central bank is being very, very cautious instead of allowing that to happen. So what we expect is that inflation goes up to about 16% from the current 15.93. And this is year-on-year inflation. It goes all the way down and begins to pick up to about 16%. So whether there's a ceasefire, we've seen that a ceasefire doesn't mean anything. The markets are priced into that instability of the ceasefire and the difference between a memorandum of understanding and an agreement. Every $10 increase, if you go back a little bit, every $10 increase in the price of oil will lead to approximately 0.20 increase in the rate of inflation. So if the price of oil increases and transport costs increase, it kicks into inflation there. Next slide, please. Now, is Nigeria alone? We looked at 6 countries. Nigeria held today. Ghana is expected to hold this week at 14% per annum. Kenya is holding at 8.75%. Mozambique is to hold at 9.25%. But 2 countries that are likely to hike by 25 basis points, South Africa and Namibia, they're very close, and so we don't expect it. But if you look at the advanced markets, both in the US, the UK, the European Central Bank, we expect to see all of them maintaining status quo. So we are not an outlier in this case. Next slide, we'll see now the inflation drivers are more transient than structural. You have the structural forces, which are here, and then the transient forces. But one thing we have to note is that, there are 4 major drivers of economic performance here. We said the value of the naira, the PMS price, the price of crude, and finally, the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy, 3 things are important. 1, making sure that revenue is collected. 2, that you find leakages, blocking leakages, and also to show that spending is efficient. You have a Minister of Finance, Taiwo Idele, who knows how to block the leakages and also to ensure that expenditure is managed efficiently. What it cannot control is the certain things in the system, but definitely with his pedigree, he should be able to hold and make sure that leakages are blocked. Now, some myths and truths. Some people believe that external reserves is the same thing as savings. No, external reserves is the money that belongs to everybody. It's not the government money, right? And our gross reserves are equal to net reserves. You can see our gross reserves are about $53 billion. Net reserves are over $40 billion. So gross reserves are always higher than net reserves, and external reserves are not savings with. That's final. What you will look out for is the excess crude account, which is naira value of oil priced above the budget benchmark. It's not a piggy bank, and so there are some things that need to be done. Right? So here we go. Fiscal goals, maximize GDP growth, block leakages, that's what I was talking about, ensure transparency, and increase fiscal revenue. This is the responsibility of the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy. I think he can block leakages. He can't do too much about GDP growth. He will ensure transparency and increase fiscal revenues. Monetary goals, this is central bank, maintain price stability, maintain a sound banking system, and boost investor confidence. Nigeria is doing well here. Investment goals, diversify the economy away from oil, attract foreign direct investment, expand infrastructure. Again, there's also a debt. Nigeria has a debt problem as well. So what do we see? Oil has gone up by 40%, but the Naira has only appreciated by 2%. Means that there's some work to be done. So it went from 72, 85, 105, but because we had committed a lot of our foreign oil commitment forward, and that has not helped our situation that much. So now this is where we are. The undervalued we say is 14.8%. The IMF says 25%. Now the parallel market is at 14.20 today, and the official market is at 13.80. The PPP is at 1175, and then the hamburger index is at 2,342 naira to a dollar. So in terms of foreign exchange stability, the naira is doing well. Factors that will determine the value of the naira as we go along: the price of oil and the production of oil. Higher crude oil lifts the dollar. Net external reserves, the CBN buffer to defend the currency and meet FX demand. Monetary policy rates and liquidity set the incentive to hold the naira assets. They've done a good job there. And inflation can erode purchasing power, but that has been well managed. Investor confidence will drive portfolio and capital inflows. Next slide. So this is how it affects you and I. First and foremost, we have chicken at 6,000. In June it was 6,500, and then rice was 70,000. It's expected to go to 80,000. Beans from 110 to 120. It's going to go up by 4%. Irish potatoes dropped, and sweet potatoes have increased by 66% to 5,000. And cooking gas, of course, is the main culprit there. So, set to adjust minimum wage. In all of this, if you don't increase the wages, or increase the wages without increased productivity, it will lead to inflation. The big elephant in the room is what to do about the Dangote refinery. Right now, Dangote, I think the government has renewed the oil for Naira swap, but Dangote is only getting 20% of the volume it requires. Therefore, he has to go and buy outside to refine for Nigeria. Next slide. So, of course, I've talked about the minimum wage, but the important thing is that a minimum wage review is not the same thing as a general wage review. Next slide. So let's go. This is what happens. They say pay your dues or join the queues. Dangote's actually has increased prices. They've increased prices recently because the price of oil has increased. And this is Dangote refinery. If they don't get the crude they want, then you end up with queues, as you see here. Pump price has increased by 9.5%, but it's not. Basically, it's having to buy crude in the international market to refine to sell in the local market. And so the government has to do something about it. Right, and now you have the IPO. So what's going to happen? We are going to have Christmas in September this time because everything is front-loaded. Elections are in January. Salah is in February 7, February 8. And so everything that was going to be done in December is going to be done in September. So you have December, Christmas in September. Dangote Refinery is an IPO. Take it now. Like we say, buy on the rumor, sell on the news. And general elections, political cycle spending, and Ramadan fast in February 2027. So these are the ports. You can see already that people are importing things on the ports. You can see that from 25 ships awaiting berth to 21, now to 27. But you see that 2 in Apapa, 12 in Lagos Tinkan, 5 in Warri Port, and 7 in the Lekki Deep Sea. So almost 90% of the ships are in the Lagos area. So what to expect in September? Transport fare remain flat. House rent will increase. Electricity cost is going to go up. Food up. Utilities up. For corporates, diesel flat. Borrowing costs flat. International school fees higher. Airline tickets higher. And salaries stay flat. For the elite, luxury goods stay flat. Taxation up. VAT up. Capital gains tax up. So generally speaking, this is the outlook. Brent, $90 a barrel. Oil production 1.5 million barrels a day. Naira 1,400 to 1,430. It's not bad. July inflation slight rise. Real GDP subdued, and equities horizontal. But again, there's the private placement of $2.5 billion and the IPO, which is coming up in September. So, like they said, buy on the rumor, sell on the news.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bismarck Rewani, CEO of Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you for your time on the News at 10. And still ahead on the News at 10, the central bank reaffirms commitment to a stronger banking system as Governor Cardoso also links the recapitalization drive and microfinance bank delistings to financial stability. And that's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the News at 10. Now we head to the nation's capital, Abuja, where Victoria Longgen is standing by to bring us more stories. Over to you, Victoria.
Many thanks, Anne. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, says President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms, alongside the 4.65 trillion naira banking sector recapitalization, are strengthening Nigeria's financial safety net and building depositor confidence. The minister was speaking at the opening of the International Association of Deposit Insurers Africa Regional Committee annual meeting in Abuja.
The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation is hosting the 2026 annual meeting and workshop of the International Association of Deposit Insurers Africa Regional Committee. The conference themed Safeguarding Stability, Public Awareness and Crisis Readiness for a Stronger Future has in attendance the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, lawmakers, senior officials of deposit insurance institutions, among other stakeholders. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, underscores President Tinubu's economic reforms and Nigeria's financial safety net.
Under the economic reform agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, we have pursued a comprehensive program of fiscal and financial transformation, unifying the foreign exchange markets, removing a distortionary fuel subsidy, and ending the central bank unsustainable ways and means financing of government deficits. In March 2026, the central bank concluded its 2-year banking sector recapitalization exercise. 33 of the 37 banks met the revised minimum capital requirements, ranging from 500 billion naira for internationally authorized banks to 50 billion for regional banks, raising a combined 4.65 trillion naira, or about $3.5 billion in fresh capital.
The conference will generate practical solutions and innovative ideas capable of strengthening depositor protection.
Public awareness is therefore an essential pillar of effective deposit insurance system and a critical tool for deposit insurers. We dare say that a well-informed depositor is more likely to make rational decisions and less likely to react adversely to rumors, misinformation during periods of uncertainty. Public awareness must therefore be treated not as a peripheral concern, but as a pillar of stability.
The 2025 YADICO principle respond to these developments by refining the definition of insured deposit taker. So they're actually moving from an institutional to a functional definition, defining deposit takers by not what they are called, but by what they do.
Lawmakers commit to continually providing oversight in the sector.
My committee conducts regular oversight of the corporation. We meet often, and whether on formal oversight visits or at the annual retreat.
The technical sessions are expected to focus on enhancing depositor confidence, cross-border cooperation, and aligning with the association's principles.
And the Bauchi state government has commenced the disbursement of 1 billion naira in compensation to more than 300 persons affected by the 29 billion naira gully erosion control project being implemented under the Agro-Climatic Resilience in Semi-Arid Landscapes project. The state project coordinator, Mr. Ibrahim Kabir, says the first phase of the project is expected to be completed within the rainy season. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliyu, reports.
Excavation work is ongoing along the gully erosion control corridor in Bauchi metropolis. Construction of the drainage system is currently in progress, and it's expected to be followed by fencing and tree planting as part of the environmental restoration efforts. What started as a small runoff channel gradually developed into a massive gully, posing serious threats to lives, property and livelihoods across 8 communities. The erosion stretches approximately 24 kilometers, with sections reaching depth of up to 4 meters, extending from Sohon Company to Gwallaga Mayaka. The remediation project is designed to mitigate flooding through the construction of drainage channels measuring up to 60 meters wide and 2 meters deep in some sections. The intervention also includes the construction of 11 tributary channels lined with reinforced concrete to effectively control stormwater.
We are hoping that we are going to cover almost 50% of the upstream within the rainy season in the next 2-3 months. And hopefully, towards the end of the rainy season, we can finish the entire upstream, then we'll go to the downstream. And the difference between the upstream and the downstream is that we have very big gully, or gullies, if I want to call it, including the pingers at the upstream. But at the downstream, it's mostly drainage. In fact, it entails a lot of, drilling, excavation.
The 29 billion naira World Bank funded project also provides for a resettlement action plan under which 1 billion naira is being earmarked for compensation to affected persons. Some structures located along the project corridor have already been marked for demolition, while AgriCell continues to engage and sensitize stakeholders on the implementation of the resettlement plan.
The project affected persons can play a role of collaborating with us voluntarily without, grievances. We're trying to avoid grievances. Then they also have a role to play in terms of ensuring the success of this project, of safeguarding it and also ensuring its sustainability.
Some of the affected residents speak on the impact of the stakeholders' engagement and compensation process.
We have been sensitized that the damage caused by the erosion will continue if it's not controlled. There is a likelihood of losing our property and also being infected with diseases.
This is the first major gully erosion control project undertaken by the Bauchi state government, and it is expected to significantly reduce flooding, restore degraded land, and protect lives, property, and critical infrastructure. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
And that's it from Abuja. It's now back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Victoria. And back here in Lagos, shareholders of Ikeja Hotel PLC have approved the audited financial statements for the 2024 and 2025 financial years and declared a total dividend of 973,065,522 naira 15 kobo only. The approval comes during the company's 48th and 49th combined annual general meeting at the Balmoral Convention Center in Ikeja area of Lagos.
Known for its premium hospitality experience and world-class facilities, Ikeja Hotel PLC charts a new course for its investors.
Proper quorum as required by the company's articles, and I declare the meeting open.
Following an intervention by the Securities and Exchange Commission, company chairman and senior advocate of Nigeria, Anthony Idigbe, stares this combined annual general meeting.
We plan to maintain our leadership through strategic initiatives, including ongoing renovation projects. So what we have been doing is implementing the SEC directive. Now, under the SEC directive, we are required to give 40% discount as part of the settlement of the dispute.
The floor opens for robust engagement as shareholders weigh in on the company's financial trajectory.
Well, I'm moving a motion, and some of my colleagues will second it, that the 2024-25 are being combined. We're taking it as one account. Instead of going to reading for 2024, you come back to read this, Those beautiful rates that they do give to us, other corporates, hotel rates, they should find a better way to encourage us. That has, and it will improve the business of Sheraton Lagos.
Press 1 for yes. Press 2.
Through seamless electronic voting, shareholders adopt the 2-year financial reports, ratify the declared dividends, and elect new shareholder members into the Statutory Audit Committee.
I hereby move that dividend payment of 30 kobo per share for the 2025 financial year is hereby approved.
A major highlight of the meeting occurs as shareholders approve a total dividend payout for 2024 and 2025. The figure stands at 973,065,522 naira 15 kobo.
The major deliberation here today is that the financial statement for the relevant years were presented to the shareholders for approval, and also dividends were declared for the 2 years. So it's a time of rejoicing, a time of harvest.
As shareholders ratify these resolutions, the board, management, and investors express optimism about driving greater profitability and cementing investor confidence in the years ahead.
We're continuing the world of business now. Willie Bong is standing by to take us through more stories. Over to you, Will. Thank you, Anne. And the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, has reaffirmed the bank's commitment to maintaining a safe, stable and resilient banking system. Speaking to journalists after the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, Cardoso said the bank's ongoing recapitalization exercise, together with the recent delisting of some microfinance banks, forms part of the central bank's efforts to strengthen the financial system and protect depositors.
The industry has come to a position where they are more alive to the responsibilities of ensuring that they meet minimum thresholds and they do not find themselves wanting with respect to their adequacy ratios. For us, honestly, the important thing, and I hope this will answer your question, the important thing for us is to ensure that we can at all times support and protect depositors' money. That to us is the bottom line. And again, just as we were talking about inflation earlier, we will do everything we need to do to ensure that we're able to deliver on protecting depositors' money.
Now, following the milestone hit by First Holdco on Monday, here's a scorecard of its earnings. The First Holdco has reported its strongest half-year performance on record, with profit before tax rising 83.5% to 653.5 billion naira in the first 6 months of 2026. And the Financial Services Group also posted gross earnings of 1.93 trillion naira, up 16.7%, while operating income increased 25.8% to 1.38 trillion naira. The company says the results were driven by stronger business performance, improved efficiency, and the benefits of its recapitalization program. First Holdco also recorded a 37.4% decline in impairment charges and recovered 91.9 billion naira from legacy exposures.
First Bank's capital adequacy ratio improved to 16.7%, while its liquidity ratio remains strong at 52.2%. Now, the group's non-banking businesses also delivered solid results. Its investment banking and asset management businesses generated 46 billion naira in gross earnings and 27.4 billion naira in pre-tax profits, with assets under management of 572.3 billion naira. And the chairman of First Holdco, Femi Otedola, described the results as an important turning point in the group's transformation journey. He said the performance confirms that the board's decision to strengthen the institution was the right one, adding that the company is now benefiting from a stronger balance sheet, improved profitability, and a more resilient business. Group Managing Director Wale Oyedeji said the results reflect the resilience of the business and have positioned the group for sustainable long-term growth. And with that, we're checking with equities market, which extended bullish sentiments for a second day as CBN holds interest rates. Yes, in Jamaica.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. I guess we made so much gains yesterday at the close of Monday's trade that investors decided that it's time to take just a bit, part of the profit today. And we saw them on the top trades. Accessco, we see, went above 26 naira. Well, it saw a little bit of profit taken today, and that made it 331 billion in trade volume. FCMB also saw that, but the biggest one we know is First Holdco. Of course, we know with the revenue and all of the good data that has come from First Holdco, that has moved, and of course, the market cap. But today we saw that investors decided to take part of that profit. So 1 naira 50 kobo was reduced from their price, stock price today because of profit taking. But trade volume 72 billion, making it one of the top trades today. Also, market mover helped to balance that. MTN Nigeria today gained 7 naira 50 kobo on each share price. So close at 834 naira. A good one for investors of this stock. At the close of trade, not as good as yesterday, but the market gained 307 billion naira, bringing the market cap to almost 160 trillion naira. They all share 0.19% in the green. So we hear the bull, not so loud, but it's still a win.
Thank you, Ini. The bull is really loud from here. But let's check out how other major stock markets performed today. And that's business news. I'm Will Ibang is back to Anne for more on the news at 10.
Thank you, Will. Let's now join Simon Pusey for more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US military says it has launched another round of strikes against Iran to further degrade its capabilities to attack ships in the Strait of Hormuz. The 10th consecutive night of strikes took place after US President Donald Trump vowed to punish Iran for the deaths of US soldiers. President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran was now fighting a full-scale war with the US. Trump earlier said Iran had been hit very hard the previous night in honor of 3 US soldiers killed recently, 2 in Jordan and 1 in Iraq. Iran has once again responded to the latest wave of American strikes by attacking US allies across the region. Elsewhere, the Houthis in Yemen have announced a maritime blockade against Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has imposed a 50% tariff on a wide range of goods imported from Canada in retaliation for what he called unequal treatment of US cars, dairy and alcohol. Writing on social media, Prime Minister Mark Carney said this is the latest in a series of unilateral US trade actions that began with the US imposing a series of tariffs in direct violation of the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement. Everyday consumer items like wine and hockey sticks and industrial goods such as cement are among those targeted. However, several key exports will be spared, such as energy, critical minerals and fish. The White House said the duties would take effect in 30 days. It marks a major escalation in trade tensions between the North American neighbours. Ghana's main opposition party has reacted with anger after one of its most influential leaders was sentenced to 20 years in jail with hard labour for illegal mining offences. The New Patriotic Party alleged that the landmark judgment against Bernard Atwi Osiako, the party's chairman for the Ashanti region, was politically motivated. Popularly known as Chairman Watumi, Bauchi is the first senior politician in Ghana to be convicted of illegal mining since the government began a crackdown on the practice in 2017. As well as receiving a jail sentence, Bauchi, who has denied the charges, was ordered to pay more than $10,000 in fines. Protests have taken place in Italy after the death of a Moroccan-born man while being forcibly restrained by two officers in the northern city of Bologna. Several thousand people took to the streets on Monday night, demanding justice for the man. A smaller group then splintered off and clashed with police into the night. Prosecutors say 64 police officers were hurt in the unrest. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said it was imperative that the truth surrounding his death should be investigated, but nothing can justify violence against law enforcement. The Lebanese army has moved back into the town, first handed back by Israel under the US brokered withdrawal plan. Lebanese troops deployed on Tuesday in the southern town of Zouta al-Gharibiyeh, the first handover of territory under a US brokered pilot zone. The plan foresees the Lebanese army confiscating weapons from the Iran-aligned Hezbollah in parts of the south, alongside phased Israeli withdrawals from land Israeli troops have occupied since fighting ended last year. Lebanon hopes the scheme, which also covers the towns of Froun and Srifa, will eventually restore its control over a strip of territory roughly 10 kilometers deep.
Oh my God!
A former US Army soldier has been arrested after igniting a fire in front of a federal building in New York City. Andrew Arabica allegedly started a fire outside the Immigration and Customs Enforcement offices. Federal agents tackled the suspect, who they say was armed with a machete and other weapons. 3 people sustained minor injuries in the incident, including an immigrant who was attending a status hearing. The Lower Manhattan site has become a flashpoint for protests against President Donald Trump's immigration policies.
He did say he was targeting the building, and he was okay if he hurt or killed people going in and out of the building, whether they were federal employees or civilians.
And Spain's World Cup winning squad returned to celebrations with an open-top bus parade through the centre of Madrid, cheered by a crowd estimated at almost 2 million people. The players, wearing shirts reading "We Are Champions," met King Felipe and Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez before setting off for the closing ceremony. Coach Luis de la Fuente called it an emotional and proud experience. It's Spain's second World Cup title win and the country's first since 2010. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. In the world of sports, reigning women's African champion, the Super Falcons, continue intensive preparations ahead of Sunday's Women's Africa Cup of Nations, as the number of players in Casablanca Training Camp in Morocco has now increased to 23. The arrival of forward Folashade Jamilisi, who plays her club football in China, flew into Casablanca minutes before 3 p.m. today. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Football Federation has confirmed United States-based players Deborah Abiodun and Gift Monday will arrive in camp tomorrow after their flight was cancelled due to technical reasons. The 10-time champions will play their Group C matches against Malawi, Egypt and Zambia in Rabat. And former Super Eagles coach Austin Eguavoen has maintained that preparations for the next FIFA World Cup must begin immediately following the conclusion of the 2026 tournament. Eguavoen stressed that Nigeria fans cannot afford another absence on football's biggest stage. And Enzo Fernandez insists that Argentina represented themselves in the best possible way at the World Cup as thousands of fans braved the cold and rain to give a rapturous welcome to the Argentine football squad, who landed back home without star Lionel Messi after their final loss to Spain. It was not the homecoming Argentines had hoped for, 4 years after millions celebrated their team's victories tournament in 2022, but fresh scenes of joyful chaos filled the streets as they danced, sang and set off fireworks to thank the players. And the main news again. Regional summit has held in Nigeria, where agencies condemned rising financial crimes as Nigeria's Attorney General Lateef Fagbemi pushed for the forfeiture of assets of corrupt officials. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawode. Good night and stay safe.